did cancel on me initially. However, he did say this morning, 4 days later, that he would be here. So I appreciate him actually coming out and answering some of you guys' questions. By raise of hands, how many are from StoneRidge? Okay, this is something that the media should have been asked, actually, because the whole point of this town hall is where do Arlington residents stand, right? Because regardless if you're in the Democratic Party, the Libertarian Party, or the Republican Party, or whatever party you're affiliated with, Arlington is what matters in this particular issue, right? The fact of the matter is, there were some questions that were asked by you that Robert, I would say, didn't completely answer them, and I had a feeling that that would happen, and that's okay because that's what representatives tend to do sometimes. But that's why I brought in a campaign, a group called Save Our Stadium. Okay, Citizens for a Better Arlington. The project is Save Our Stadium. Right. I will admit, I am a part of that group. And that's why I didn't really want to interject with any questioning to Robert Rivera. It was a conflict of interest that I didn't feel comfortable doing. However, we did bring representation for Citizens for Better Arlington. Warren Norred, I kind of already introduced him. I'll let you do your own little introduction real quick.
I'm Warren Norred. I am a local attorney. Practice bankruptcy litigation and intellectual property taxes and such. I'm also on JPS board of directors. You'll notice that JPS recently backtracked and took its bond proposal off of the November election because they recognized they had not brought the city or the county with them. They got a clue, and we're going to go back and do it again. So it's doable. I was hoping that would happen this time, but not. I'm going to go in reverse order, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to respond to some of the statements made in kind of reverse order in the way it came, because you'll remember that. Then I'll go through about 3 minutes of the talking points that you should all hear that may have not been discussed at all. And I'm happy to take any questions. I was not aware that the City Council's job was to make the Rangers as profitable as possible. I don't know if you heard that or not. That's what I heard. It's kind of weird. I do agree that time is of the essence on this deal, but for different reasons. For the City Council, who did this exact same thing with their Cowboys, we announced it right after the City Council elections. We don't talk about it. And then we, bam, we put it on a general election where the most number of people are going to be, where you have the hardest time for the opposition group to respond. It's $50,000 for a decent mailer. $50,000. So you think the opposition group's going to do any mailers? No, you're going to get 3 or 4 from the Cowboys or from the Rangers. Doesn't matter. Same thing. Different balls, I know. So time is of the essence because if you look at this master agreement too long, you'll find out things they don't want you to know. That's why time is of the essence. If we have a long, full discussion of the master agreement, which I have in my hand, right here, and I think I'm the only person, maybe a handful of people have read this thing all the way through. It is full of outrageously good things for the Ranger management. There was a question that was asked, what about the existing structure? And the answer that you heard was, well, we're going to take input from the citizens and we're going to do some things and then we're going to decide what we're going to do. This is what the agreement says, the signed agreement says. In its discretion, ultimately, if the team may, in its discretion, ultimately determine that all of Globe Life Park in Arlington should be demolished by the team at any time subsequent to the team's relocation to the ballpark complex. Did you see anything about public input? Maybe taking a, No, they're going to do what they want, okay? Don't be fooled. This is the written document. Has Robert read this? No, Robert has not read this because I know he wouldn't deliberately lie to you. If he'd read it, he wouldn't have said that. So they can do that. There's lots of other good things in here. This is the way it works. And we talk about $500 million. That is just it's not the tip of the iceberg, but it is nowhere near the full picture. If you read the proposition, it talks about 5 taxes. The sales tax and one of the other taxes, I think it's hotel, is what directly goes into paying a fund that goes into helping to pay the bonds off. So we're going to sell $500 million of bonds. Now, the extra cost to sell the bonds and buy bonds, that's on us. and then it's going to get paid off by the sales tax, right? So let's say, and nobody knows yet because this paperwork hasn't been done, let's say it's $20 million a year in bond payments, which could be. Well, the house and sales tax is going to raise $25 to $28, $30 million a year. So where does that extra money go? According to the master agreement, it goes into a fund called excess revenue. Where does that money go? It pays for operations and maintenance. Does it count towards the $500 million? No, it does not. Okay? It does not count. So we're paying for the $500 million of bonds, but we're also paying any excess of that comes in toward paying operations and maintenance and whatever else, whatever the good ideas that the Rangers happen to have. It's an incremental financing. It's an entirely different deal. That's in the system. So we talk about $500 million. It is a lot more than that, ladies and gentlemen. It is a lot more. It's like saying, oh, we can afford a $100,000 house. I don't care what the interest rate is. I don't care how fast I got to pay it off. When somebody says, I'll sell you a $100,000 house, there's a lot more that needs to be asked about that question. But we're told, you can just take our word for it, we'll be okay. Other things that are important, you'll hear Robert talking about other people. And by the way, Robert's the only one that will stand up here and take the hits like this. So even though I joust with Robert a lot, I have to give him credit for that. The others are even more cowardly than that. So I'm sorry, they're busier. They're busier than that. They'll talk about the jobs we have. Okay, your money is already creating jobs. Okay, it's creating jobs. Whenever a politician tells you, we're going to take a few dollars from you a year and we're going to make jobs over here, what you need to hear in your brain, you got to do a politician interpretation in your brain, real time. You're going to say, what I'm really going to do is I'm going to destroy jobs that I can't identify here because I'm yanking this money out of the economy, which is creating jobs. And I'm going to build jobs for people who know where they get their money and are easily identified. But this money over here was already doing something, okay? It was already busy. Okay? It didn't grow out of nowhere just for these jobs. So whenever you hear them say, we're going to create 400 jobs, you should hear, we're going to destroy 400 jobs in the private sector and move them to some place where somebody owes me a favor because I'm giving them a job. Okay? That money, and you can see this in little ways. The way it works is nobody goes in their back pocket and says, I was planning on spending $20 to go eat. Instead of only got $15, I'm unhappy about that. You may not miss this money, the $5 or $10 a month at a time, but the economy does. If you were going to go buy a skirt at Target, you may wind up going to Walmart instead. If you were going to go eat at a nicer place to eat, you wind up going to Chick-fil-A instead of, what's a nicer place? Just one nice place. What's that?
They closed.
And I look at things like Asher's, right? Asher's at overpriced, really nice kitchenware place, right? It's a place where men go to buy their wife's stuff. So, at least that's what I thought it was, anyway. I'm going to take money and give you things. It was a high-end place. Okay, what do we lack in Arlington? We lack high-end product places to spend our money. Why is that? We got plenty of Targets and Walmarts.
Yep.
Because people buy money, spend the money they have in places where they have to. This house and sales tax does not come out of your mortgage, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't come out of the money that you're going to spend on anything except what? Entertainment. Entertainment and disposable goods that you don't have to have. Because that's where it has to come out of. It can't come out of anyplace else. So whenever you take money in sales tax, what you're doing is you're hurting all of the upper end organizations that sell stuff. So just a little economics lesson that just kind of help you with your interpretation. It's going to take 5 years to do all this planning. Well, it took them, what, 3 months to put it together, right? Don't they already own the land? What did Robert say?
Yep.
This is going to take all this time for land acquisition. Really? What part of that land do they already own? They already own all the land. So there's no land acquisition, right? We don't have to worry about that. Texas Live is going to happen. Who owns Texas? Who's involved in Texas Live?
Arlington and Rangers.
The Ranger management. The guys who own it.
Surprise.
So are they going to decide, if you turn down this deal, $500 million, are they going to say, well, that's it, we're out of here? No, they'll say, well, can you give us 350? I can promise you, in 2 years, maybe 4, because they want to get it really good during that presidential election. They'll come back, 200 to 350, somewhere in there. I can promise you this. This is not going away. These guys are not going to go away because we refuse to give them $500 million. But let's say we do. Okay, so what happened last time this happened? Cowboys came for what? 350. Because why? Because if Dallas couldn't raise 350. What has changed since then? Nothing. The answer is nothing. Dallas can raise between $150 and $200 million a year on taxes that it doesn't currently have. And so it's not, people sometimes think city councils can just raise taxes whenever they want. They can't do that. They're limited. So they're already at 8.25. They give a full penny to mass transit. Because they do that, and you may have an opinion on mass transit, but they take that penny and they can't do anything else with it. And that's what allows us to play these sports team things. Other things that you need to know. Whenever you see somebody saying, you got to sign the dotted line right now, sweetheart. What does that tell you? You're mature adults. What does that tell you? Run! Run! Okay? This is a timeshare. What is this? Okay? I'm sorry, we put this together, we announced it. This person who's running our city council has never even heard of it, but you think that she's not the only person in town outside the city council that didn't know about this? There are plenty of people who knew about this, but she didn't. Let's see, what else is there? Times moving jobs. Yeah, the old building goes away. Now here's the quick one. In case you don't, by the numbers. $500 million in bond, financed by 5 taxes. 2 of them are brand new. Now, they'll say, oh, Warren, we talk about the brand new. We use these things on the Cowboys. Yes, you do. But they're new to the Rangers. It says to impose a tax. To impose a tax. Okay, that means it doesn't exist currently. Now, people talk, Robert got it wrong, I think, too. The Cowboys, what they're talking about is many different things. They can start paying, if this passes, they can start using this money immediately as long as the Cowboys, it's kind of an honor among thieves thing. So the Cowboys and the Rangers will split up the money, and you get the leg, I'll get the torso, kind of thing. And so, you can plug, put their skull on the wall. So they can divvy it up, and they'll probably do that. As you may or may not have caught, we're going from 48,000 plus seats. I think it's 49,000 seats actually. Down to 38. Master agreement says 38,000 or more. Okay, you're losing 10,000 seats.
Yeah, really.
So last week, whenever it was 96 degrees and there were 47,000 people in the seats, and those are facts. You can look it up as they say. There are 9,000 people who would not have been able to come to town and spend their money here. He goes, well, yeah, but on the other side, if you have air conditioning, then you're going to have more people show up on the average because you don't always max it out. That's true. That's true. But if you have a winning team, so if the Rangers' plan is, look, we're going to suck for the next 20 years, and so we need every amenity that we can get in order to pull you guys in. Okay, if you say so. Okay, I'm not going to argue with that. So, I explained sales taxes are going to pay the bonds, and then they're going to pay the air conditioning and whatever else. It's a lot more than $500 million. They're finally giving up on this idea they're going to leave immediately because we've talked about that enough. 2024. And normally, if you rent a house, if you want to move out early, you just pay the rest of the money in the rent, right? It's just a lease. They can't force you to stay there. These deals are different from that. In these deals, there is something called specific performance, which means it's a kind of a contractual matter. I'll go lawyer on you just for a minute. It means we can force you to stay. Okay, it's a beautiful thing. It's part of the law that allows us to create these deals in the first place. They cannot leave unless they go out of business or something. Then they will just disappear, which is probably unlikely. But by the way, everybody talks about how great this is. Just a few years ago, they did go bankrupt, right? You remember that? They filed bankruptcy. So just because you got a lot of people in a stand does not mean you're making money. There's a lot more to that than that. You'll hear people talk about the $77 million in impact. $77 million in impact. Impact is a non-financial word that means a lot of money is running through here, right? It doesn't really tell you, I guess it is a financial word, we make it up. But It's not new money. If the Rangers, they're not leaving, but if they did, the money that people go spend at the Rangers would still be here. You could spend it on other things. It'd be impacting it in other ways. The money all gets spent. The money's not grown so it can be spent all. It's like the special, what is it, Disney dollars? They have those? What are they? It's not like special dollars that are just useful there. No, you'll spend the money elsewhere. How much new money are we getting? That's the real question. If you listen to these guys talk, it's 50-50 sales taxes. Okay, this is what they do. You should always ask yourself, when you hear some politician spout off, how did they get these numbers? Would they ask Visa to look at their credit cards for the expenditures in Arlington, and it's 52% of the bill-to addresses were outside the city. So they say, there you go, it's obvious. Sales taxes are going to be paid, half this will be paid by the foreigners. How many UTA students do we have in the city? 37,000. Okay, 37,000. Now I don't want to be, this is just a joke we had back when I was an engineering student. University of 10 Americans. Okay. And so it's just kind of a funny thing I suppose. Anyway, there's lots and lots of people that go to the UTA that are not from around here. Do you think their bill-to addresses on their credit cards are outside the city or inside the city? Could be 20,000 people that live in, every dime they spend is considered non-resident money. How about the franchises that have bill-to addresses outside the city, that have local organizations here? All of it. Are you kidding me? Nelson, we did some real research. Where'd Andy go? He's back. There you are, right there from me. Andy started this, and I picked it up on it too, and it's good stuff. If you look at the real numbers, the real sales taxes paid by the foreigners, somewhere between 15 and 20%. 15 to 20, using their numbers. So it's not, now I'm not sure why that matters a whole lot anyway. It doesn't make me feel good that you're ripping off my people that are visiting as much as you're ripping me off. I'm not sure why that's supposed to make me feel good. But that's the real numbers. It's not 50-50. And of course, the real problem here, and this is what should give you even more doubt, whenever you bring something like this up, it's obvious it's not 50-50. You're looking at only the credit card. If you're a waiter at Chili's and you get paid in tips, and you go out and you spend a lot of money, you're a resident. It's almost all cash. If you're a resident, the money that you're more likely to be spending is cash. Now, is it more likely than credit cards? It's just on the margins, right? If you're a resident and you live in Arlington, you're spending more of your cash dollars here in town. If you're a visitor, everything you do is credit card. So it's going to overrepresent credit cards. I'm going to see. They'll talk about. There's an architect that did the new courthouse building in Fort Worth. They did Sundance Square. You've seen the blooming tulip things, what are those called? And AA Center in Dallas. They did David Schwartz. Okay, Star Telegram reported a couple months ago. He had not been contacted. I want to ask yourself something. Let's say you and your wife are adding a room to the house, and you have varying ideas on how you're going to build it, how you're going to add it on. But you happen to be neighbors with the architect who built your house, and you're first name basis with him, and he uses pictures of your house on his website. Come and ask me to build your house. I'm good at building houses. And you wanted to add a room to it. If you're having difference of opinion on how to do it, wouldn't one of you say, let's go ask David, see what he says? You'd think that'd be an obvious thing to do. It doesn't mean that he's the only person that can answer the question, but why wouldn't you do that? If you want to do due diligence, if you wanted just to do what a normal, sane human being would do, you'd go ask him. Now, when I asked the mayor about this a couple days ago, he said, oh, Warren, let me do you a favor. That's not, Schwartz is a design guy, and you need to get a structural engineer to talk about that. So I don't have a master's degree in electrical engineering. And so, and that was not my point. My point is not that anybody else can answer the question could. My point is, why would you not ask the person who knows more about it than just about anybody on the planet? It is easy. You can pick up the phone and call him. Their answer is because you don't want the answer. As our good friend said in the movie, you can't handle the truth, right? That's the bottom line.
There you go.
A couple other things, and I'll be done. No study's been released. Still talking about, oh, we released the studies. What they released was an executive summary of a bunch of assumptions. There's no numbers on there. When I was an engineer, back when I was a useful member of society, I would do studies. And so whenever somebody asked me to do a review of my study, they would give me all of their documents. And I would assume, and this is what I really did back when I was an electrical engineer, doing nuclear power work, okay, for ABM Pell and Comanche Peak. We assume everything on it's wrong. That's how you do a review. You assume it's all wrong. The size of the wire's wrong. The size of the power supply is inadequate. The capacitors are inadequate. You assume it's all wrong. And you prove that what the guy did, okay, you can't find anything wrong with it. That's how you do a review. Can you do a review of what they've done based on what they've given us? Absolutely not. You don't know what they've assumed for growth. You can't tell anything from looking at what they've given us. This is not a study that can be reproduced. It's simply not there. They don't want to allow you to look at anything because the fact is they haven't done a study. They put together some fancy assumptions they don't want to tell you about. They run it through a magic M plan. This is a well-respected software package. How dare you impugn its integrity? Okay, that's what they do. That's what they said just a couple days ago. So, are you kidding me? No, that's not the way it works. So, no study about what this is. So, I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
Hey, Warren, there's one comment I want to make, though, when he was mentioning about Dallas wants it so bad, is if folks paid attention recently to current news in Dallas, they're kind of in financial straits. Here's the problem. Fair Park right now is getting dilapidated. They cannot bring up the funding or the tax base to repair Fair Park. They're in danger of losing it. So they had to go in partnership with a nonprofit organization for half of the cost to try to build it. The nonprofit is going to be managing it for the next 30 years. Second, Dallas has no geographical area where they can build a brand new stadium. You got too much infrastructure going on 635, 75, etc. There's no place they can put it. And eminent domain has been ruled illegal by the Supreme Court about 8 years ago. So think about all that. There's no way Dallas cannot expand geographically. They're locked in by all these other cities. So Dallas can't handle it.
Yeah, the eminent domain thing they can do.
Yeah.
That was actually ruled the other way. They can do that. The real problem, and this is the problem that our city council has, they really do believe, I don't use the word deceptive, because they really believe this. They really believe that if we turn this down, it's going to be gone just like that. And I talked to one longtime friend who's a supporter of the ballpark, and I said, why do you believe that? And he said, because if you win this one, you will have taught the city that it doesn't need to fund them at all. And therefore, you will always win from time immemorial. Oh, now, as much as I would love to believe that, there's a sucker born every minute. Okay? And there are lots of them that are born every minute. So I am quite confident that we'll pass it at 250 or so, maybe 350, somewhere in there. But the problem, they'll say that we're going to crowdsource 300 million plus. They really believe that. Jeff Williams will tell you that. Warren, they put together the Myers. They can do this. They can put it. They believe it. Okay, you're not going to convince them that they can't do it. You just have to beat them. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is on topic, but not on topic, I guess. When we were sold the $385 million in Cowboy Stadium, that did not include interest. That was just the upfront.
Oh, right. I mean,
Do you have any idea what you paid in interest on that debt service?
I don't know is the answer. I can tell you it's a lot more. People don't realize what the real cost of this is. They really don't. It's like, but it's very similar to if you buy a $100,000 house and you're making payments of $1,000. How much of that is interest the first 10 years? It's huge. Yeah, it's huge, and that is all money that could be paying for jobs, and it's not. We will never know the damage that these projects do to our community. I mean, it is phenomenal. There's a reason why why North Arlington is nothing but cheap apartments and failing schools. We talk about, I'm on the board of the Arlington Classics Academy, and we talk about putting a school up there because I think we could raise property values by 10% overnight just by putting a good school up there. There's somebody else. We'll come back to you. Yes.
Yeah, it's a business, and if these owners think this upgrade is going to make them more money, if they look to what happened in Miami, Florida, where they did build them an air-conditioned stadium and only 1,000 more people came per game. Well, for us, we do 54 games a year. It's like $50 billion over a 37-year time period, and 50 million extra sales tickets is only 5% of $1 billion. Why would we want to invest $1 billion just to make 50 million over 37 years?
All of the money fights, all of the money discussions, you have to recognize none of the money arguments matter to the people who are proponents.
Right.
They are motivated by fear. Fear of loss. That's what it all is. It's just fear. I mean, and I don't mean that flippantly. They really are deathly afraid that our city is going to blow away if we don't give them this $500 million. Yes, sir.
Did Irving do any analysis about what happened after the accomplishment?
It's funny. I went to the University of Dallas in 1981 for 2.5 years. UD is within walking distance of the Rangers Stadium, the old Cowboy Stadium. And there was never any development around Irving. Now you had 5 highways. It was beautiful. You got a forklift shop, and Peterbilt and a couple of the guys that have been there forever.
Texas Wesleyan University was the law school was close by.
Yeah, well, it was that's another entire story. Don't get me going on that one. You're trying to jerk my chain. I went to that little law school back when it was known as that name, whatever it is now. Yes, sir.
What I understood you say was you didn't get us up in 5 or 6 years, and we had them solid, like I said, on a performance basis through 8. What do we get in return of that?
If what?
If we go to a new stadium and we're signed at least 3 years past.
This is what the master agreement says, is they say 2054, right? 2054. Does it say that they won't ask us for more money in 20 years for another stadium? No, it does not. Okay, it does not. Why is that? Because there'll be a new set of patsies running this city who will then bend over backwards to give them a brand new drone-based stadium so privileged people can go around and see it from 100 yards up. I mean, it'll be magic. Okay, if you haven't seen the John Oliver clip on the stadium,
Awesome.
Who is it? It's the Mariners. The Mariners have an aquarium that goes around this. That's bringing a lot of quality of life to people. Yeah, that's improving the game. And they had the who is it that had the clause that says if new technology is developed, the city is responsible for helping them get it. That boggles the mind. But incremental financing that's in our master agreement can be used to do whatever pretty much they want to do. So it's beautiful.
I think Lynn had a question.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing exactly where the new stadium is going to be put, and I'm going with the assumption that it's going to be either across the street or to the east.
It's
South.
I think it's parking lot A, right?
South.
So you go over and south. I think you go over and south.
Okay.
Straight south.
Are there homes that are going to be taken?
No.
They say no. They say no. That's why we don't. That's why I laugh. That's why I turtle whenever they talk about land acquisition. They have all the land.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why they're going to wind up tearing down Globe Life, because they need the
Build a parking lot.
We got another question right
So
here.
you have this in here.
Oh, I'm just wondering why we gave the naming rights to a tenant. They're just renting. And we didn't keep Arlington Ballpark with our name on because we paid for the thing.
Well, this is why. Because the Rangers came and said, we have a long list of A through double Z of things we like, or we're going to think about moving someday. And then the city council said, where do we sign, baby? That's what it was. This is the worst dealing I've ever seen. It's like walking up into the car dealership and saying, show me an expensive car and what your bottom price is, except don't discount it for anything. And you say, I'll just pay it.
And then if Betterfield had kept the name Rangers, they were the Senators, they had to leave the name Senators in D.C. Just keep that name, I don't know how you do it, you're an attorney, and always have that name.
I can do magic.
And always have that name on that name. And they say, they'll even say, don't let the door hit you on the way out and get another team to name that thing the Rangers.
If you talk that way, they start going fetal. That's dispatch. You want them to leave. You want this are not going anywhere. Okay, this is what's really going to happen. Swami says, we're going to beat this thing. It's going to be back in 2 years, maybe 4. It'll be somewhere between 200 and 350. It'll be much harder to stop. That's what Swami says. And you can take that to the bank.
And he visited Meridian, and that was part of his resume, Jeff Williams. Meridian is a mess. We heard from the people. We went there, we covered all of that, we put our flyers at every door. And you should hear what they've got to say. Did you know they said they have a house there, they're trying to get the mayor to move there? I guess they help their movie bonds, or whatever you call them.
I don't know about that. That's like so far away from me. I'm far south. I'm 5 minutes jogging from
It is a
Mansfield.
mess.
And people say I should just keep on jogging. And so, yes, ma'am.
I'm just curious because you're an attorney, or not a criminal defense attorney, but pretend you were, and your client was offered this deal as a plea deal.
It's not a plea deal. It's an opening salvo. Okay? This is not a plea.
If the city was, let's say the city was your client as a real person, and they were offered this deal, would you tell your client?
Of course not.
Run away.
Give me a trial, baby. We're not going to plead for that. What are you talking about? Yes, ma'am.
My concern is that when we built the Cowboy Stadium, I talked to all my neighbors, talked to a lot of you people, and I asked the same question, did anybody vote for it? Do you know, I found one person in 20 years, or in time I've lived here since it's been built, that said his wife voted for it. He said, but I captured that out, and I voted against it.
This is what happens. Okay, you have to recognize what's going to happen, okay? And we will see, it will not surprise me if we have Nolan Ryan, who loved this ballpark, saying, oh, well, that was back then, but now things have changed. People are wusses. And so we have to have this new ballpark because new pitchers can't handle it. It won't surprise me if former presidents show up and say, I thought we should do this back then, and it's a lovely park, and now it's time to do something. It won't surprise me. You have no idea the shock and awe that has not even begun yet. Okay, it's going to be tremendous. Back when we had the Cowboys, I was at UTA during early voting. It was bread circuses. They had the inflatable girls right there with the bread and pizza. I'm sorry, Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. The Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders were there handing out pizzas. Okay, it was bread and circuses. Literally, they had a carnival set up. And then, so what? You're a 19-year-old boy, and this girl says, "Take this and go over there and vote." Yes, ma'am. You know, how hard is this, right? It won't surprise me if the Cowboy cheerleaders do not show up in support of this. I will be really surprised if they don't. I will. There's honor among thieves. Okay, they're going to help each other. You don't know. There are people in the city who have voted in 2 civic elections in their life. You can name them, right? Rangers and Cowboys. And other than that, they've never voted in a single election. You can go look it up. It's easy to see the pattern. We're going to see those things will show up. There are going to be people who would not normally vote for a president, but they're going to come vote in this deal. And you have to recognize it's going to be president and a whole bunch of people, boring, and senator, and then we've got some senators, but judges way back here at the end will be the Cowboys, or the Rangers.
Yep.
So, they're whatever. So the extortionists of the day. So I say that, and I like a good game as much as anybody else, but it irritates me. And so that's what you've got to tell your friends. You've got to, whenever you have the opportunity, you get a sign. You got to fork over $20 for the cause. Take a sign.
Could I tell you what they're doing?
Judy, you had a question?
You had a question?
Yes. Okay, when is their current contract up?
2024. 2024.
And when is the new stadium supposedly going to be?
Jeff Williams said that they want to be in it 2020. That was yesterday, right? So now, Jeff has said, Jeff's a good guy, right, in comparison to some other people that have held that office, in my opinion. It's a low bar, okay? It's a low bar. There are people who he has said that he doesn't, he's a businessman, he doesn't want to be there for the rest of his life. So he wants to, what I would guess, is he wants to make this up, wrap it up, take the win, and move along to some whatever else.
Exactly.
That's what I suspect.
Exactly. I suspect it's benefit the re-election campaign.
On that point, so What they did, and he admitted to it, Robert Rivera, he indicated that if he could have put it on the May ballot, right?
Right.
But they didn't have the master agreement completed. So as homeowners here in StoneRidge and in Arlington, how does it make you feel that they really didn't care about you at all? That he admitted that they would have voted on it then and there. So just anybody, how does that make you feel?
Frustrated. Well, they'd already decided.
They'd already decided.
Yeah, they decided, they spent money, and they said that they've been working on this literally for years, 5 or 6 years, and every executive meeting this has come up, and yet we're supposed to hear about it, and in 8 weeks, we've got to get the opposition and get out there and vote on it.
It's like I brought up earlier. I mean, they did it in 30 days. They had their press conference on a Thursday. The following Tuesday, no citizen input. They voted on it the first time. I mean, you know, you can't prepare for opposition in that time period, especially over the weekend. They knew it. And just like the scheduling of the city council meeting yesterday at 3:15, most people were at work, or when they read it at 5 o'clock, were on their way home from work. They're not going to be there. Get the other people to dress up in their little fancy little t-shirts. Oh, we got a majority. Bull, half of them don't even live here.
Right. If the Rangers are the tenant and they're paying us $2 million a year, and that they're going to continue paying $2 million a year, when the bonds are paid, are they going to go down to $1 million rent, or is it going to stay at 2? And then that isn't the city not able to use that money in their general budget? Doesn't the city have to take their rent after the bonds are paid and keep putting it in that stadium?
You mean during the pendency of the deal?
After the bonds are paid.
Like every year, like starting as soon as we started. The sales taxes go into a fund.
Okay.
That fund then pays off the servicing on the bond. Now, it's kind of a strange deal. I had to learn about this. In these kinds of deals, you can't prepay on your bonds. Okay? It's not like a normal debt. If you want to get caught up, you get a windfall, somebody gives you a bunch of money, you pay your car off. You can't do that with these deals. You have to pay them at a certain piece. So what you do is you set aside another fund to defease the bonds. So you're going to set money aside to offset the debt. And so you can do that. And that's what people do. That's what cities do. And so they can take this excess money and then they can use it to defease the bonds and to also pay operations and maintenance. I know that I strongly suspect that they'll use it to offset the utilities. Of course. This is not like even your church where, okay, it's Saturday, we're going to have this big volume of air cool tomorrow morning so they can start it going. It's not like your house where it's 2,000 square feet and you can set it so your smart thermostat gets it cool by the time you get home. No, this is a huge facility. And if you're going to have it cool, you're going to have to start cooling it forever. Okay, as soon as it's built, let's get that going. Okay, we're going to enclose the air when it's cold and wintry, and then we're just going to keep it. It's going to be. Why wouldn't you run it full time? Somebody else is paying the bill. Somebody else is paying. What would you do with your thermostat if somebody else is paying your electricity bill? Man, it'd be beautiful. It's like 66 in my house. I'd be dressed like this and comfortable. Okay. It's nuts that we're talking about this. You know, I don't normally talk about carbon footprints and income inequality. These are not things I normally come talk about. But this is and right now we've got this huge building with a very small carbon footprint, and we're going to replace it with something that's smaller and has a huge carbon imprint, and it's going to, while we're doing it, we're going to take money away from middle class people and give it to billionaires that live in another city. Wow, I couldn't blame that if I was Bernie Sanders. You know? Right. Well, that's somebody said, well, why don't we just, of course, Robert, the first time he ran, I remember he was 18 years old and went to UTA, and his deal was buying the Rangers. And I'm like, that's still like Robert, aren't you precious? Here he is. So it's just the way it is. If we could give money to buy better players, then we can do socialism proper. Quit messing around. Man, sure.
To the point about the $2 million annually and things like that, I don't see anywhere in the master agreement or allowed by law where this half-cent sales tax or any of these taxes related to this deal can go to anything in the city of Arlington except for the stadium, its upkeep, its carbon footprint in the AC, all those things. They cannot ever use any of those funds to fix the streets, to
True.
build
Well,
sidewalks.
if they wanted to, they could say this incremental funding with the other two taxes, that they could, if they want, of course they're just not, that's just a fantasy. But they could try to make that happen, I don't think they would stop them. Well, you know, this street sucks, they're 2 blocks from us, we're gonna fix it up because it makes it easier to get in here. Is that gonna happen? No, it's just.
It'll happen within a small radius, like you said, 2 blocks of the stadium.
Right, this
It'll
helps
never happen
us.
in any other
If
part of our.
it helps the Rangers, it might happen.
Yeah.
This is the other thing too, and we filed not a grievance, I say grievance because that's what they. Complaint, a tax ethics complaint based on the ballot language. The ballot language, if you just read the ballot language, and I encourage you to go look at it and say, let's pretend I don't know what the deal is. What does it say to me? It says we have 5 taxes we're going to implement. 2 of them are brand new, 3 of them are extended, and it says we can use this money that's currently being used here for other things, the Rangers, okay? It does not say $500 million on it anywhere. It doesn't say bonds on it. If you were just to read it, say,
It doesn't say the duration either.
It doesn't say duration. What it really says, it has reference to a resolution, and if you ask them, they would probably say, well, the resolution has all the details. And I looked at the case law in Texas, and you can be pretty loosey-goosey about these things. But if you just read it, it would suggest to you that what they're going to do is they're going to take these 5 taxes and they're going to put it into a fund and they're going to use it to slowly build a ballpark. Because it doesn't talk about the bonds. And it doesn't talk about what it's limited to. It does make this reference to Resolution 16090, which you're supposed to get. And it took me some time. And I am good with the Googling, okay? I am a good Googler. And it took me a long time to find out where that was. But it's referenced and you can find it. And it talks about bonds and all these things. But if you wanted to say, what is the real limit on this? The average reader does not know this. It doesn't see it's $500 million. All they're going to say is, well, there's the Ranger deal. And if they don't know it's $500 million, they won't see it. What we're going to need to beat this thing is for ordinary people and recognize you in this room are not ordinary. You're weirdos. Okay? You recognize that, right? Because you're here on a weekday night, not putting your kids to bed, suffering because you know, I'm so bored, Daddy, can I go home? I see you over there. Yeah. It's okay. It's fine. Most people don't get involved in this level. So it's going to take you people getting out and putting a sign in, talking to your 5 friends that you can convince to please let you put a sign in your yard. We're going to need $50, $100, $20, whatever you can afford toward paying this, and telling people they've got to go do it. And on election day, we're going to need 75 polling sites. We need people there for 12 hours. 12 hours. And we need 3 or 4 people at each site. Okay? People can beat this thing. We absolutely can beat this thing. But it's going to take ordinary people. They don't have something, you know, that don't have a ball boy that they're so proud of, that does Ranger work, as one of our resident trolls does. You go to Facebook, you got to know these things, you got to be able to know these arguments well enough that when people say it's 400 jobs, it's a fantasy, you're moving 400 jobs, you got to be able to say, when they say $77 million, you have to say, we would get that anyway. You have to be able to know, it's not 50-50 on sales tax. You have to know these things. There's no shortcuts. I made it as short as I can by spending my god-awful amount of time reading this stuff, none of which is billable. So anyway, yes ma'am.
This is kind of what it is. If you're talking to somebody who maybe is on the fence, or you're on the fence, you're not sure, if you run into somebody who says, oh, you know people, you're so negative, nobody that I know of that is against this proposal is an anti-Ranger person. We're not against the Ranger.
Amen.
You know, it's an interesting, they had their kickoff, right, last weekend, and it said, you know, supporters of the Rangers come do this deal, right? Well, that's what they said. It's not really what they meant. What they really meant was supporters of the Rangers tax proposal, okay? And those people, anybody else in what part of that got sent home. I suspect that there's a lot of people there who are not particularly Ranger supporters, but they are supporting the tax proposal. And there are plenty of people who are fans of the Rangers that were not allowed to come in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so look, to me, our society will grow up someday, and we'll look back on these days and say, man, we were wasting a lot of time on watching grown men play children's games. But that's another, you know, I play chess, okay? So I think that I'm so much more erudite than you. You know, we all got our gig, right? But you shouldn't have to, I don't force anybody else to pay a lot of money so that I can play chess.
So vote early and vote often.
What's that?
Vote early and vote often.
Vote early, tell your friends. You got to berate them there. You got to treat this like Amway or something. You really got to make people do this thing. You know, come on, we can be fun. I did Amway for several years. It was a lot of fun. So
What
anyway.
are the two new taxes?
It's the Ranger version of the cowboy taxes, admissions tax and parking tax. That wasn't on the old one, right?
Right.
Yes, ma'am. And I think we
You
kicked
know,
off.
there are so many towns around that don't have stadiums and all this stuff.
That makes us better than them.
Well, you think. But I mean, they've got really nice parks, they've got good recreation areas.
Okay, you telling me you can have nice stuff in a city without having, don't you? No, but let's face facts. All the streets are made of dirt, right?
Oh my gosh.
You'll hear them talk this way. They really do. They'll say, well, if we lose Rangers, I don't know what we'll do. We'll be paying. No, we're blowing the money on things that should be, you know, $500 million is a lot of streets.
Yeah, it sure is.
Okay,
A couple questions, and then I want to let Greg come up here for a little bit. But question.
If you were to run for mayor, would your motto be you were going to repeal and replace the Ranger Stadium?
It's next year.
I have to see what the perks that go along with the deal are. I may have a sudden conversion. No, it's a deal, right? We're gonna make a contract, and that's gonna be it. Now, what we can't do is this. This is what we can't do. This is what you can't do. Once we vote on it, it's pretty much a done deal. What you can do is this. You don't have to give them every little thing they ask for. This, if you go to the Cowboy Stadium right now, what do you see the signage out there? You see these triangular signs, kind of this curved, and they're like 50 yards tall from here. Can I put that in front of my building? No. Turns out there's a sign ordinance that I have to live with. They don't have to live with that. They just kind of shrug down and say, hey, we'd like one more favor. Oh, come this way, whatever you want. That's what happens. Okay, this is the real world problem. Aside from the money, you know, we all blow our money in lots of ways. A lot of us, I do bankruptcy work, right? And I see people who look just like me, who come in all the time and they've blown their money. And they've made silly mistakes. We all blow a lot of money on lots of stuff. It is not really even the money that we blow. It is the cost that is not counted. It is every person who has a small business that can't put a sign in front of his building because we have a sign ordinance that's thicker and more complex than New York City's. You're all supposed to go, New York City. What's that?
Really?
Yeah, so we have a landscape ordinance that says if you want to start a business in this city, you have to have landscaping. Now, what happens if you go out of business in 6 months? Landscaping dies, right? So we're going to create a more difficult time for you to start a business.
That's the truth.
And then you struggle, and then your landscaping goes belly up anyway. If we were to say, look, you don't have to do your landscaping for the first 2 years. Let me get a chance to get my feet off the ground. Start making some money
There you
before
go.
you sit me with all these regulations. Warren, that's just silly talk. We'd have to have more exotic inspection cycle. And, you know, I'll just rant for this. This is not ranting. I'm getting geared up for the rant. This is a 30-second rant. I open my business right now. It's on Abram. I'm at Abram and Mesquite, right? I am downtown Central. I'm right 1 minute from Flying Fish. In front of my office right now, they're taking Abram from a good, useful 4-lane street to a less useful 3-lane street. Okay, at this rock, a mound of rock. You say you don't have mountains? I've got one right in front of my office right now, this moment. Okay, I can't put signs out there because that, you know,
Yeah, I was
the
in the
chaos.
the other day.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You can't get to me from right now. You have to wait until the winter or something. The reason why I was ranting. Okay, so there's a sign. There's my door that opens up. There, the first year I was there, I've been there 6 years. The inspector comes in, fire department says, "Well, you're going to have to get a push bar for your sign." Okay, what do I know? I don't go lawyer on everybody, right? You know, you're just a guy. So if you tell me, that's fine. Okay, so I pull a locksmith. He comes in. No, he doesn't do that. The guy's out of his ward. He doesn't know. Okay, so I don't do anything. Next year, somebody comes in, same, it's a different guy. He says, well, no, what you need is you gotta be able to push and turn and push and get out. Okay, and so I call up the locksmith and he comes up, no, that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, so the third year, this is the actual truth. Third year, the guy shows up and he says something, you know, I've been doing this now for a couple of years and I haven't changed it yet, okay? I know you've got your code book here, but I don't know code books. I know law. That's what I can go look up. Tell me the law that I need to comply with, and I'll comply. He never came back. These guys have nothing going on in their lives but to go harass people. They've got to prove that they've got a job that's worthwhile. So they come into your business and they mess with you. And that's what they do, because they've got to prove that they're important to society, because otherwise the gravy train ends. So, and we can't fix that kind of thing because we're too busy making sure that billionaires get paid off and get the little thing they want. So, end of rant.
One last question, Becky.
Well, in the city council meeting the other night, the city manager, I guess, was talking about the actual cost of the project. They didn't just say 1 billion, they said 1.25 billion.
Well, now let's talk about that, because that's in here, okay? The cost overruns over the $1 billion are borne by the Rangers until you hit 1.25 billion. Okay, if you get to that point, then the Rangers can say, time out, you guys got to come up with more money, or we're out. They can do that. Now, odds of that happening are very small, right? That's probably not going to happen. But what we do know is they're going to give them everything they can. One of the reasons, you heard Robert say, well, we've got this Texas Live, this is a big deal. There's lots of activity caused by the Cowboys. The reason it's happening, ladies and gentlemen, is because the city's given them $50 million. I was told by multiple city council members back in the day, Warren, if we get one luxury hotel out of the Cowboys, it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. Have we got a luxury hotel out of that? No, we have not. So what are we going to do? We're going to build one anyway. We're going to fund it ourselves, by golly. Is that the way? So what does that mean? That means it's an admission. It's an admission that all those guys who said that were wrong. We never got it. Now, I'm sure it's going to be a nice facility. I'm sure it'll be great, and I'll enjoy going there, just like I enjoy going to the Cowboys and the Rangers. But it's not natural growth caused by the priming of the pump that is the Cowboys. The priming of the pump, you know, how many... Sooner or later, you got to recognize, look, we're just getting mud here, okay? We're not getting it. There's no water here. We can do this privately if we wanted to, and they don't want to do it privately. They want to get money from us and wonder why it doesn't work. I'm going to sit down and let somebody else talk.
All right, Greg, go ahead and step over quick, Warren. Thank you very much. Obviously, very informative. Very quickly, we're going to have to
I don't know how to follow that. Great job, Warren. Only one thought came to mind right there at the last second. I'll leave this because I know everybody wants to go. Did you catch the bone that he threw this neighborhood? $15,000 reward. I wonder how big a sidewalk that is. You know, I just can't hardly compare that to $1 billion. And thanks for nothing. Am I right? Yeah. And really have become well-informed here, as I'm sure you have tonight. I don't want to keep you. I mean, unless you had a question specifically for a CPA.
Well, how about this? I'll ask you a question. You look at this agreement, as a CPA, okay, just with your number crunching, how does this deal sound?
It's just not right. And I will do the same thing Warren's talking about. When you set aside, you can't pay your debt off early, and we're going to set up this slush fund over here, and we'll take care of things with that, and we're going to, now, it does make sense for a guy like me anyway. I still have to pay the bills, you know. It sure will do.
Okay, what I just handed everybody, let's take a look. We're going to hold an election in here right now with the amount that we have right here. Okay? Not everyone is...
You know, one question here is, this idea of $75 million gain, does anybody know how that's going to get calculated? Or again, are we still talking about behind the sky stuff?
It's our...
The 77 million revenue? Or 75, something like that?
77. That's coming out of a study that they have not released for us to be able to actually replicate.
Okay, so he's saying that that's just a study that was conducted, just so anybody didn't hear. It was a study they conducted that they haven't released. So
They
we
haven't
really,
released the data because it doesn't exist.
Well, I mean.
No, I asked for
when
it.
you-
I asked for it, open records request.
so the bottom line is that it has to be released.
Okay, you can do that. You can say that there is money that comes through, right? You have ticket sales that comes through. And you make a reasonable assumption about what people are spending when they come in. And you come up with a big number, okay? It would not surprise me if there was $70 million of impact a year. That wouldn't surprise me. That's not the issue. That's not the issue. The issue is how much new money are they bringing in. That's just how much money they're spending. In my law office, I know you have an impact of $2 million a year or something like that. It comes through it. Does that mean I get to keep it all? No, it doesn't. You know, I'm paying bills with that. I'm paying that's the judgments that get paid to other people. Just because money flows through your bank account does not mean you're wealthy. Okay? That's just not what it means. So don't be fooled by a big number of impact. Impact is irrelevant. How much are you saving? How much are you making on the deal? And he's talking about, you know, we invest money over here and then we get money back. If I never had any stock in GE that I owned, if I didn't have any GE stock, and then I invested in GE stock, how much would I would show a huge increase in income from GE stock, right? Because it went from 0 to something. Okay, does that mean it's a good deal? No. What if it's gone down? What if I'm getting dividends? So I'm getting cash flow, but the value has gone down. Okay, these are just numbers that people throw out, and you're supposed to be impressed by it.
And I think the other point is, if we had their assumptions that they used to create that $77 million number, we could plug in any other assumptions we wanted to and come up with any other number.
Essentially, it's a model that you can
It's a
just
model.
plug in. Yeah.
It's a model, and you can change the numbers any way you want to make it bigger or smaller based upon how you assume the economy is doing or anything like that. And so you can change that any way you want to. But if you don't even know the model, how can you create a new model to compete with that and discuss it?
How much would it be different? What if the number was 46 million? Would that change anybody's mind?
No.
No, it's just a big number, okay? It's just a big number, a bunch of millions of dollars. It is irrelevant to anybody's decision making as to what that size of that number is. It's $77 million of impact. I don't care if it's $100 million or it's 50. It's just money that's running through the Rangers. That doesn't tell me that it's good for me. It doesn't tell me it's good for my city. It doesn't tell me anything. And it is a number that is just a number that's divorced from reality. It has no impact. That number has no impact on my life or your lives.
On that note, specifically, when you take a look at these ballots that were printed out for you, think about those kind of things. Well, how does this affect you personally? Okay, StoneRidge itself is between the two corridors that is going to basically lead everyone from I-20 right into the stadium through I-30 and vice versa. You will be affected traffic-wise.
Yep.
Okay, that's
Air
one
quality.
thing. Air quality. Okay, there's a number of things that are going to take place here. So when you make that, when you check that box, think about those things. Think about, we have teachers. Joyce. Hey, ISD, wouldn't they love some of that $500 million? What could you use it for? I mean, what could you use it for? What are we missing?
Oh, lots of things. I mean, in the classrooms. I mean, you know, just different things. And every school here is the same.
Decent cafeteria.
So quality education, right?
Quality of education. I mean, they get these new facilities, and then the kids can't even afford to visit them because they're too expensive.
Exactly.
You know, you take them on a field trip, and it's too expensive for them to go. You know, it's just ridiculous.
So look at the numbers now. Right now, if you look at this area of Arlington, you will find that we are some of the lower end grade level or scores. Okay, so couldn't this help our students? Couldn't this help us for our future? Because if you think about it, it's a 30-year deal, right? My daughter's 5. I'm going to put that burden on her. She had nothing to do with it, right? But the education that she's going to receive if she goes to a public school is not going to be that good. I mean, if you just look at the numbers. So look at those type of things. Where could you use that $500 million? The east side of Arlington, and they'll tell you they're working on it all day long. If you look in your packet, it says a number of projects that are going to be that are done through 2015 through 2017. Those are just plans. That's just ink on paper. I've lived here for 24 years now. Okay? East side of Arlington has been the east side of Arlington for 24 years, the exact same way.
that way a lot longer.
Okay? Exactly. And I'm just talking my experience. His experience obviously more than mine, and he's telling me the exact same thing. These roads, they're not going to fix themselves. Okay? So this 500 million, we could at least, like Warren said, we're going to get a deal. It's going to happen. I believe it will. But for 500 million to put on our backs right now with a 90-day notice, I don't think so. I don't think so. So with that, go ahead.
Obviously, one more thing, what struck me tonight was what I thought he said was that we were going to repurpose the stadium. When the rest of the story is, it's going to be a parking lot. So,
Of course it is.
take that, when you see that you've been deceived, and even though only briefly, that's because I'm here tonight and I'm informed that, what's the rest of that story? And I felt insulted by the $15,000 number.
And how much does it cost to implode a building?
As an accountant, let me just say this. My problem is that stadium was built when I went to the old stadium. I've been here for longer than that. I've been like 25, 28 years maybe. And this new stadium has not lived its useful life yet. And that is a waste.
Just to mention demolishing the stadium, in that agreement, the youth ballpark also goes away.
Right.
That's removed, and it's going to be moved, they don't say how, to a city-owned property, which I'm interpreting to mean it will have to be, if it gets rebuilt at all, will be put probably on an existing Arlington Park. How well, do we have a tax-rich parks and rec department? That maintenance will become a burden on the parks department.
Right.
So that's also something else. It's not just one state that goes away. You know, the youth ballpark isn't actually, it's not huge. A lot of things, like when you play, Suns play the league, that's gone too.
Right. Warren kind of mentioned this, and it's just a matter of you have to be informed, and that's why StoneRidge decided to host this, because and it opened to the public, to all Arlington residents, because all Arlington residents are going to be voting. So my mission here was to inform as many as I could, and your mission should be the same. And I know this lovely couple here has been doing that. They've been walking.
Man, you are machines.
We learned so much. I would advise all of you to go door to door throughout Arlington and learn about your city. It's fascinating. I learned some things I can't say here. Did you know what we found?
Turn it off.
Did you know that these dumbos, that's what I'm calling that bogus, put signs in Del Worthington Gardens saying Antigo? That's how dumb they are.
Well, it's a good sign location.